Okay, everyone, Joe indicates that we are now streaming live on YouTube. I'd like to call the meeting of the Sumter County Council's regular meeting for Tuesday, May the 12th to order. Councilwoman McGaney, would you please give us an invocation?
Sure. Let us pray. Dear God, our kind Heavenly Father, we do thank you for allowing us to come together on this platform to discuss the business that you've placed before us. We thank you for every member that we are still well and able to meet. And we thank you for giving us this unique ability to be able to have our meeting in this platform. And we just know that you're with us, you know all things, and you're all powerful. We ask you to bless those who are struggling from that pandemic, from COVID-19. Be with them, give them your healing powers. And we just ask that you comfort those who have lost a loved one. And we ask that you continue to give them peace and encouragement as we go through. And we just ask you for obedience and understanding for us to know that we need to be obedient to social distancing and to try to keep ourselves safe and to be wise in all that you ask us to do. And as we go through this meeting, we ask that you help us to make the decisions that are pleasing in your sight. These are all blessings we thank and ask in your name. Amen.
Where he that he's moving out of his house. He's gonna find a new home, and with the I got the TV on. To move out comes all the questions down to me and my parents. Are you guys moving out?
Larry Horns is not muted. Larry Horns is not muted.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ms. B. Okay, everyone, please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Right.
of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Understanding, are there any changes to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Our chair recognizes motion made by Mr. Baton to approve the agenda. May I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilman Chris Sumter. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for our regular meeting of Tuesday, April the 28th?
Motion approved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Chris Sumter and seconded by Councilman Jimmy Byrd that we approve the minutes from our regular meeting of Tuesday, April 28th. Any discussion? All wants to approve the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. There are no land use matters. Moving into ordinance number 2923. Jonathan.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, this is the ordinance to rescind the ordinance which established the Boyles Pond Special Tax District. I'll let you know before we go into the public hearing that I had a telephone call with one of the property owners out there, and he asked us to defer third reading tonight. To make a long story short, originally they were going to abandon their plans to repair the dam, but now that plan may have new life, and that would require them to maintain their loan with the Small Business Administration, which would require special tax district. So they'd like to keep the tax district. They plan to meet again very soon and get back with us. But for tonight, it'd be good if we just maintain the status quo, deferring third reading on this particular ordinance.
Move to defer.
Well, we're going to have the public hearing.
Well, according to Ms. Blanding, there was no comments sent in for public hearing. So there will be really no public hearing, no comments will be read. So Mr. Baker, you made the motion to defer third reading.
I did.
May I have a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Councilman Chris Sumter. Any discussion on deferring third reading per Mr. Bryant? All in favor of deferring third reading, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Deferring ordinance number 2923 is approved. Ordinance number 2924. Mr. Bryant.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, this is an ordinance to authorize the transfer of about 0.9 acres of land on South Ginyard Parkway. The offeror proposes to pay cash, and by going forward with third reading on this ordinance, we will rescind ordinance 17872, which was an ordinance that authorized the sale to a different purchaser who never followed through. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Bryant? We were to have a public hearing before third reading on this item as well. Again, there was no input sent into Mrs. Blanding. So may I have a motion to approve third reading of ordinance 2924?
So moved.
Joe, can you take that down? Okay, I think that was Mr. Baker that made the motion to approve. May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Baker and seconded by Mr. Baton that we have third reading on ordinance 2924, the sale of 0.89 acres of property at 1710 South Ginyard Parkway. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of passing third reading on 2924, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Third reading of ordinance 2924 is passed.
Mhm.
Moving right along, Mr. Bryant, ordinance 2922, third reading.
Chairman, members of council, at the last meeting, we talked about making some changes, or the fact that there needed to be some changes made so that in the future, if we're gonna have an electronic meeting, it may be by a conference call or by video conference, just as we're doing now. And I believe the clerk of the county council forwarded to you two ordinances, one showing the proposed changes in red, and then the other showing the changes adopted in a smooth version. I'll be glad to take any questions concerning those changes.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve third reading?
Approve third reading.
It's been moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded that we have third reading. Any discussion? All in favor of third reading of ordinance 2922, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Third reading of ordinance 2922 is passed. Come down to committee reports. I'd like to report that we did have a budget workshop and a special meeting. We did have an executive session where we received information on an economic development matter. No action was taken. Council also during the session, not in executive session, approved the extension of our emergency ordinance for 21 days. And Mr. Mixon, budget briefing that also took place, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Quickly, in the budget workshop, we went over the expenditures by department for its regular operating expenditures, not to include personnel costs. We'll review that at our next meeting. I'm proud to say that we have basically brought in a close to balanced budget of just over $17 million in those line items, but work continues in those departments. We've also had a presentation by Carrie Kavanaugh with Find Great People. She did a wonderful presentation on our wage study. It's a very preliminary discussion. We will certainly get into more details at our next budget workshop on that, but great work by the team from Find Great People and Carrie Kavanaugh, and also want to publicly thank our staff for working so hard on that and get that information for Carrie to complete that study. Council, again, that was a very brief explanation as to how she came up with the numbers, and I think she did a wonderful job. And the last item that we covered in the budget workshop was a proposed schedule for the budget over the next month and a half that was presented to council. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mixon. Okay, come down to our reports from council members on other meetings, trainings, and our conferences. Do I have any reports from any council members? Okay, seeing none, monthly reports, Mrs. Blanding.
Ain't really here.
Joe, take her off mute and mute me.
Mr. Chairman, Sumter County had forfeited land commission met today. And also in your packet, there is the Palmetto flyer. And the Sumter County Gazette. That's it. You can turn it on.
Is that all, Ms. Blanding? Okay, Mr. Mixon, County Administrator's report.
Mr. Chairman, two quick items. As many of you have been following the governor's reports that have been coming out regularly, there's some significant changes proposed for the next week with some reopenings. The one that probably has greatest impact on us directly as an organization would be that they're opening up the state parks, which that's kind of what we followed as far as closing our parks. So we'll be looking at opening up our parks next Monday. We'll send out official notification of that once it's been formalized, but we do anticipate that we will open up our county parks to include Dillon Park, Patriot Park, and Mill Creek. We will also follow as closely as we can the CDC and the governor's guidelines as far as congregating and social distancing. We have to put something in place to monitor that to make sure people are doing the appropriate thing, but we do anticipate that next Monday we will likely open up our parks. Again, people are excited. The weather's perfect to get out, and I know that a lot of folks are feeling kind of closed in, so if we can provide some space that they appropriately get out to exercise, I think we probably should do that. And we'll be having conversation with the city as to what they do with the city parks. But that's, again, I just want council to be aware of that. The second item wanted to cover was that Ms. Dennis and I are already starting the process of developing a policy for reopening. Well, it'll be done in a phased approach. Now, many of you may be following, some other counties are talking about how they're already reopening. Basically, based on the conversations I've been having and following the chats, those counties are basically moving to what we've been in the whole time, and that's a modified schedule. So that's the process they're moving to now. We've been in the whole time. The next phase, of course, will be to bring the employees back, all of our employees back for a period of time. And then the last phase will be open back up to the public. Of course, when we open back up to the public, we want to make sure that we have all the safety measures in place to protect our staff and the public with social distancing and making sure we've got the proper screens up. So a little bit of work to be done. It'll probably be done over the next few weeks. Right now, our goal would be to probably 1st of June, possibly to bring the public back in. But again, that's a moving target. Depends on how the numbers move. Right now, it seems like we have kind of leveled out in Sumter with somewhere between 3 to 5, 3 to 8 cases at most movement during this time. For the last few days, hopefully that'll continue to trend down. Just not this weekend, but the weekend before, we probably had our worst weekend of all. So I wouldn't say we're out of the woods by any stretch, but hopefully we are moving that needle in the right direction. A lot of it's going to likely change with the reopening next week. So we'll be following those numbers and see what impacts that has as well. But I just want the council to be aware that that's the process we're working through right now. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mixon. As you know, we do not have a public comments session here. It's been suspended until we start meeting again. So at this point, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved to adjourn by Councilman Chris Sumter. May I have a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Me.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Councilman Baker. It's been moved and properly seconded that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, everyone, please stay safe. We are adjourned.